basis. So when I make a fare exchange, I might exchange a cup of tea for a 12 by 12 piece of wood or something. That's a fair exchange. But when I'm exchanging something that somebody printed up out of nowhere, means nothing, and I give hard labor for that, it's really it's against universal law. So I don't want to spend too much time there. So this is something that I became familiar with about a year ago. After the conference that I performed at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference every January. And after that conference, I met with some people that I knew and some new people. And they have developed a silver-backed cryptocurrency. Now, I want to be very clear here. This is not my project. The only thing I'm doing is letting you know that I'm involved in it, and I'm one of the founders or early pledgers that has taken on risk by pledging not fiat, not Bitcoin, but silver to get this rolling. Because in today's world, we still need to use some form of money in order to make things happen. But I am promoting it. Now that doesn't mean if you're a subscriber to the Morgan Report or even on my free email list that I won't be talking about other words, because I am a free market thinker and have been most of my life, which means there might be a better silver-backed currency or crypto that comes out. I'm for competition in the realm of the monetary sphere. It's just I don't agree. I have one philosophy that I adhere to. It doesn't mean that you have to adhere to that same philosophy. Am I making sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. So Load is the world's first, they claim, I think it is, but maybe someone can prove me wrong, cryptographic silver money ecosystem utilizing the blockchain that will provide a unique relationship to silver bullion. So basically all we're saying again is that we're backing a crypto with silver. And we fashion it like James Turk, a good friend of mine, did with gold money. We do it on a gram basis. Grams are a pretty small unit. It's pretty easy to figure out what a gram is or what a gram is worth. And it's just a methodology. It's like a base 10 numeral system or a base 6 or whatever. So we're doing it by grams. And they call it a new paradigm, and I call it an old paradigm. I mean, it's really both. Cryptocurrencies are certainly new, but silver is the oldest money in the world. It's the first money mentioned in the Bible. The word money and the word silver are synonymous in all the Romance languages. On the way over here on one of our rides, I talked to the driver, and I said, what's money? It's plata. What's plata? It's money. You can't separate the two. Argentina is a little silver. Argent is silver. I mean, in all the Romance languages, the word silver is money. And so, gold is money. I'm not saying it isn't. As I said earlier, gold, silver, and copper, if you go back far enough. So the new paradigm is it's a new way to utilize silver in a new methodology, which we're all learning about. I'm sure many in this room know far more about cryptocurrencies or the blockchain than I do. But I like this idea. And again, I'm not locked into this one. I am right now. I contributed, but that doesn't mean it's my favorite or the best. I don't know yet. So it's the first, there's two assets here. There's the silver, obviously, and then of course, like all cryptos, there's a token or a coin. The coin is the smart contract or the contributor certificate. This is where I'm involved. This is where you pledge a certain amount of silver that you may lose, okay? And that's a high risk, but there's also a reward that goes with that. And on the other side, the AGX coin is what you will get at any point once this is launched. And that means you come late to the party, which I think most should. I'm actually advising my people that even pay me, why don't you let me risk it along with a bunch of others? I'm not the only one funding it. I want to make that very clear. But that you can't come in late to the party once it functions. I'm really big on, since it's been such a risk taker my whole life, on some of these smaller companies or whatever that I get involved with from time to time, is let me take all the risk. And then once it starts functioning, let me tell you about it. I like to help my people, any people, but especially people that pay me, support me, give me a good living as much as I can. But this is more than just a coin from the aspect of a token. You can exchange this for real silver. So let me be, again, very clear that we are in a situation where this is not your typical crypto white paper, we're going to go from 10 cents to $100. Since it's backed by silver, it's going to follow the silver market. So if you're in it for that big push, you're in it for the wrong reason. If you're in it to redefine the monetary system and to actually give a contribution to bringing back honest money principles, you might want to think about it. I'm not even explaining the Interfix engine, it's just the way the thing works, and it's kind of beyond me, I'm not a programmer. The strategic wealth preservation is in the Caymans. Most people in this audience probably wouldn't have a big fit about that. A lot of good businesses are in the Caymans. Wheaton Precious Metals, for example, which is a stalwart company. I own it, so I better declare that. But that's where the vault is. So you vault the silver, it goes into the pile. You're going to get so many tokens or ATX coins out of that. And this is the one jurisdiction that we're able to find so far that allows us to keep this, as I know it today, anonymous, which is, of course, what we want. So I'm called a facilitator, which means I'm pitching this to you, but not a real hard pitch. You don't think I'm pitching them hard. So I'm telling you, kind of the smart way to play it is to stay out of it, but if you want to risk some, there is a reward, and I'll get to that in a minute. David Smith, who's worked for me for almost from day one. David does most of mining trips. My back's too sore and I'm getting too old. David's older than me, but he's small. He gets on airplanes easier. Anyway, all jokes aside, David and I have both sat down with the founders of Lode, his Lode project, his silverback crypto, and heard them for hours. We made separate trips, or we made other trips up to Vancouver to meet with the programmers, some of the early founders, and we've hammered this thing out. And we believe it's something that whose time has come. That remains to be determined, of course. So there's a couple ways to do it. One is you can get on my free email list, which is at themorganreport.com. I've rebranded the website to my name because I do so much more than the silver market, although silver certainly is still a passion of mine. And the report that you pay for is based on resources across the board. So you can go there, get the free newsletter. We will be interviewing, or I will be interviewing, one of the founders of the Lode program Thursday when I get home. I'm going to fly home Wednesday night about midnight and then get up and we'll do the interview with him. But it'll also be on the free list. In other words, if you're just, want the free letter, you're welcome to just go to morganreport.com, give me an email and first name, you're on, verify it's you, and I'll keep you informed of how this project continues. So now the payoff. So if you're an early founder, all systems that we know of now have friction, or there is a fee, or there's something that happens, which means that when you put in a block of silver and you get a coin out, there's a difference in price between a commodity-based 1,000-ounce bar of silver at, say, $20, and the coin you buy from the U.S. Mint at $22, okay? Because a block doesn't equal a coin. And for a block to equal a coin, what happens? You've got to smelt it down, you've got to extrude it, you've got to stamp it, and then you've got to press it. And then you've got to ship it. And there's labor, there's energy, and everything involved. So there's a spread between the price of silver in commodity form and the price of silver in coin form. And that's what it is, it's a spread, it's a difference. Well, here we are loading up the funding with blocks of silver, but we're going to produce coins, and not a load coin specifically. I'm not saying this is a specific coin. It may be, I don't know. What I'm saying is that there is a spread. That part of that spread will be gone to, people that run it, computer programs. It'll pay for labor and energy. There'll be enough left over that we'll have an amount that will go back to the early founders in silver. and I don't know what that amount is. You need to talk to the load people that are out in the hallway here. They have the details, I don't. I've got the big picture, I'm a big picture guy, I'm not gonna go into the details, I don't have time. But the idea is if you load it early on, as we cycle through and more people start using this, you'll be rewarded in silver, which is kind of cool. Because I don't know about you, but I know my pile isn't gaining any silver sitting there. And this is an opportunity to do that. But there's also commensurate with that risk that's involved. I think you all understand that. So that's it. I was going to go on about the silver market is very undervalued, and it is. Maybe I'll just buzz through real quick. I think most of you know that I believe strongly there's one more leg up in the precious metals that will be unbelievably huge. Silver is very undervalued by any metric you look at. This is from John Williams' work. If you did it in today's dollar via his work, it's about $600 an ounce. Doesn't mean it's going to get there. The silver Dow ratio is way out of whack. Gold is the most negatively correlated asset to the silver price. As Ed said earlier, that, and so did Colin, that when the price of Dow goes down, you can expect the price of the mining shares and gold to go higher. This gives you a little bit of a perspective of where we are, which means that relative to the earlier bull market that I'm old enough to have witnessed, from 65 to January 1st, 1980, to where we could be. So in other words, if you look at this, we're probably, I'd say really more like 2/3 of the way there. It will be an exponential function. It will be like a Bitcoin curve. It will be, people will, in my view, panic into the metals. But there's more variables this time. You know, we do have all these cryptocurrencies out there. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how this develops. That's still my forecast. I think it's important for people to know that 90% of the move comes in the last 10% of the time. You could have been the greatest investor of all time, and as soon as silver went from 90% to zero in 1965, like I explained earlier, and you held that silver all the way through the end of 1978 to January 1st, 1979, you would have got a real rate of return that was rather modest, to be honest. But if you didn't know anything about silver, and you bought it January 1st, 1979, and you held it to January 19th, 1980, you would have made 800 times on your money, 800%, 8 times on your money in that 1 year. So this is how most markets move, and most people don't know that, so I want to make certain that you understand that. You get into what I call the manic panic phase. Silver is no different, especially with the potential that I'm outlining here. So I'm not going to go any further on this lecture because money has fascinated me for most of my life, because when I was a young man, I mean a kid, not even a man, I was just a kid, the idea got in my head that if you had enough money, you could be free. So really, if I analyze it, analyzing yourself is a real experience. But the point is that I really thought, God, if you had enough, you'd be free. You could do what you wanted. You could go where you wanted. You could learn what you wanted to learn. And all this stuff poured into my head or into my being, and wow. And then, of course, like any kid who's 9 or 10, I'm thinking, well, I'll just get everybody out there. I'll get 1 million people to send me $1. I'm there, you know. Of course, I didn't have a lot of consciousness at that time what that would mean and would that be fair and any of that stuff. But I'm fascinated. So I've always looked at money. I mean, one of my passions is monetary history and what it does in society. And I read the book, Collapse of Complex Societies, and I won't recite you the book. But the point I'm making is that I'm going to show you a film clip. I showed this film clip last year. And I did it for one of my favorite things to do with people. And probably my most favorite thing to do with people is to get them to think. So I'm going to digress a bit and then we'll show the film. I'm not a huge Ralph Nader fan. I like Ralph for his heart. I don't think he understands economics. But he told a story at a solar panel thing that I was at. Just happened by. It just happened to me, one of those little things from the universe. And he started off his speech by saying when he was a young man at the dinner table going to school, his father asked him, and his brother. What did you learn in school today? Were you taught to think, or were you taught to believe? So, roll the film and I'll make some comments. Film clip. I hope this works. There we go. This is a gentleman named Harold Katz-Vella. He is a German guy who talks about the use of money, that apes were taught how to use money.
It's not on the screen.
The moment these technologies are out, we will stop using money. We'll stop having an idea in our mind that it is necessary to possess things. If you look at what we do now, it's what happened to the apes in this beautiful experiment. I love this story. I have to repeat it every time I would say. They tried to teach apes to use money. It took 3 days. They knew how it works. After 3 weeks, the boys in the ape family started to steal and betray, and the girls started to prostitute themselves. And after 6 weeks, the biologists who run the project decided to stop the project because they could see the social patterns fall to bits and pieces, getting self-destructive and ugly. And then they decided to take the money away again. Big mistake. The apes were not willing to let go of this. They were beating the biologists up when they tried to get the money back. And this is gaming addiction. And every single human who is part of economy has fallen to this gaming addiction. And the core of this gaming addiction is scarcity. We think we don't have enough. This is why we grab as much as we can. This is what creates the idea of money and the idea to possess things. This is not nature. This is a demonic program to bring us into self-destructive patterns. Look at the Red Indians in America, at the native tribes. They don't have money, they have love. If they do something, they do it out of the original reason to do things. If we do something, we do it for cash. And we are so in scarcity that we do everything for cash. Look at the Hollywood productions. Look at the mercenary killing millions of people. Yeah, a job. We have to do the job. Yeah? This is where money brings us to. And the moment when you have these two options of transmuting every element you need and producing energy as much as you need, we enter a world of abundance. And this can only work if also the psychology of the scarcity is leaving. If we let go of this and start to trust the other cycle of, I know that there's enough of everybody. This is why I let go everything I don't need in this moment and share it with other people. And they gain trust in the thought that there really is enough for everybody. And this is also self-strengthening. And at the moment we're kind of diving through the hole of the needle, leaving one system, entering the other one. It's a process that is going to take place during the next 3 to 5 years. And when we are through, nothing is going to be the same on this planet.
I'm sure we could all have a dinner together and talk about that for a very long time. And I'm still digesting it, and I played that a year ago, and I've been talking about it here and there in some of my lectures. But you know, he starts off, a little bit was cut off, but what he talked about initially, and it was kind of cut off, I think, was that not only are we basing the whole economic system on the idea of scarcity, and I'm an Austrian economist, I mean, I believe in most of the Austrian school. But what he talked about and was missed was that there are, and he used the word free energy, but there are sources of energy out there that we don't have access to. And I think many in this room are well aware of the idea that even if I can't prove free energy, there are so many documentaries out there of like carburetors that got 100 or 200 miles per gallon, and all of a sudden this guy's in Las Vegas never took a drug in his life and he's on the side of the road with a drug overdose. I mean, those kind of things. That's just one of the many documentaries I've watched. So the idea is the most important commodity in the world is energy. And that basically revolves around oil right now. But if we all had enough energy, you know, we could have a lot different social structure than we have now. You know, we're all taught about money and the importance of money, and I'm not trying to downplay it. So where do I stand? First of all, I reserve the right to change my mind. If I become more enlightened or I see another aspect, I'll certainly admit it in front of an audience and I'll say I made a mistake. Right now I see the precious metals or the cryptos or a combination thereof because the market can figure it out as long as it's free enough to work this out. But I see a more honest or a more competitive currency as a transition to what Mr. Harold Katzvella was alluding to, that maybe, just maybe, we can gain enough head and heart, enough consciousness, enough real reality that the most important thing that we have is each other. I'm going to share a metaphor with you. I had the pleasure of having breakfast with Max Egan. First of all, I want to do this. There's two things I want to do. How many in this room who know of Max Egan? Please raise your hand. Okay, great. And how many in this room know of Mark Passio? More, a little bit, about the same. Okay. The reason I bring that up is because of the crossover for my own work. I mean, obviously, I've been fascinated with money from an early age, but I've grown from that a great deal over the years, and I can see the ups and the downs of it, and the greed, and I can see, you know, necessity, and I can see, you know, I've been in the honest money movement ever since I knew there was a dishonest money, and, you know, I knew about the Federal Reserve when I was like 12, when I used to tell people about it, and they poo-poo the idea. I mean, I've paid my dues in my own way for standing my ground as far as being anti-fractional reserve banking, anti-creating something for nothing. Because that's the basic premise of the entire central banking system, is they get to create something for nothing, spend it in the marketplace, buy up everything, own everything, and then we get what's left over. It's called trickle-down economics. And yeah, some of us are wealthy or well off or whatever, as long as we obey their rules, and if you don't, well, you can get a good vacation in a, I guess, what are they, 8x8 cell service? I don't know. You get my point. So, I'm going to give you a story that is personal, and maybe it doesn't illustrate anything about money or cryptocurrencies or silver. Maybe it illustrates something about what I just said a moment ago where I got the applause, that the most important thing we have is each other. And I mean that specifically in this room, meaning that the people that think outside the box and are sick and tired of being told what to do, where they could go, how they could spend their money, and that type of thing. Because you are the leaders, you know, unless you take the action to make something happen, it's going to be status quo. Remember, the root word for satisfaction is action. You can think about it all day, you can intellectualize it, you can watch all the videos on YouTube, but you have to do something. You know, talking alone isn't going to hack it, you know? And whether you protest or don't protest, I don't know. I don't have the solution because it's your individual choice. So here's my story. I was in one of these situations for improving yourself, getting a better idea about how the world works. By the way, let me pause and digress for a second. For all you crypto people out there, with all of your getting, get wisdom. Back to my story. So, we had this course set up where we had to get to the top of this mountain, and it was about a 6-hour hike. And we were divided up into 4 groups. It was a competition. The first group that got up there to put up a structure like a bunch of 2x4s and some cinder blocks, a very simple structure. But the group that got up there put up the structure before the time ended. It was like a 6-hour timed event. would win a prize, okay? And so I started off at the bottom of the mountain with my group, and I was one of the more fit, younger people, so I carried a lot of the bricks and the boards and stuff. So I got near the end of the day, and one group made it to the top and didn't finish their structure, but they won, because they got most people up there and started the structure. So I got to the top, and there was about, I don't know, a few minutes left, 8, 9 minutes, something like that. And I'm there, and I absolutely felt nothing. And I knew I had lost. It was my group, but I had lost because there was this group there putting up the structure. So I went back down the mountain. There was a woman there that was probably 60 pounds overweight. And I got behind her and I pushed her literally to the top of the mountain. And I went back down. There was a guy older than me, because this was several years ago, a decade or so. Grabbed him by the hand. I pulled him up the mountain. I got about 3 or 4 of us up the mountain to the top, and then there was a little discussion about who made it to the top, and it was kind of blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember hardly anything about that part, but everyone started back down the mountain. And I just started bawling. Because I got this, one of my moments, one of my greatest spiritual experiences I've had, because I realized in my heart of hearts that it'd make a damn that I got to the top of the mountain. What meant something was how many people I helped get to the top of the mountain. So we all have power. We're more powerful beings than we think. We're spiritual beings in this shell. The heart is more powerful than the head. It's not all about money. It's about us. I want you to go out and make a difference.
Thank you very much, David. David Morgan, ladies and gentlemen. I love the message of freedom and liberty, and each of the speakers today is giving you a message about freedom and liberty in different ways. And one of the ways that's coming up right now is getting more and more popular all the time. Your next speaker is someone who has worked for 22 years helping people